Welcome into our Saints postgame show live. The Saints getting a 23-13 victory over Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. Huge win for the Saints. Alongside Super Bowl champ, former linebacker Scott Shanle, I'm Erin Summers. John DeShazier will join us shortly in Raymond James Stadium. There were so many things that happened in this game that were not expected. The Saints were able to establish their run game, get over 100 yards on the ground without having Alvin Kamara in the second half. They held the Bucs scoreless in the first half of play. The Bucs end up with 4 turnovers. Baker Mayfield throws 2 interceptions, and it was the tight ends that were the ones that got into the end zone. What impressed you the most in this victory?
I think just the whole approach offensively was a perfect way to go into this game against a good Tampa Bay defense. And utilizing those tight ends. In the short to intermediate game, you haven't really seen – it was by far Juwan Johnson's best game of the year. It's really what you expect out of Juwan because he's such a mismatch. And even though Tampa Bay has good linebackers, it's a tough matchup. And they had a hard time spotting him and finding him and covering him. Because even when they were covering him and they knew he was getting the ball, he had the ability to separate and convert. I think today just that mindset, being not necessarily conservative, but knowing that if you can take the football away – from a team that you match up well against, you're probably going to win the game. And that's exactly what happened. The defense took the ball away. The offense didn't give the ball away, played good complementary football, all 3 phases really, and that's why they played their most complete game of the year.
Going into this game, head coach Dennis Allen had said he didn't feel like the team had played well in all 3 phases in the same game yet this season. I think you could argue that they did today. You also mentioned offensively, they didn't really have a lot of explosive plays, didn't take a lot of downfield shots except for that Taysom Hill touchdown. But yeah, they kind of just worked efficiently down the field. John, I'm going to send it to you over there in Tampa. What did you like most about this victory?
I think I like most that the Saints were kind of backs against the wall. I mean, they needed this game, obviously, to keep alive the slim playoff hopes. Tampa just needed to win the division, and Tampa still has that on the plate for next week at Carolina. But the Saints, I think, for 3 quarters, probably played as clean as they can play. They forced the 4 turnovers. They were able to get the touchdowns. They did everything they needed to do to win the game. They did turn it over themselves, so that was a big plus. I think they were 8 of 17 on 3rd down, so they kept possession of the ball. They kept the clock running. They kept Tampa Bay's offense off the field, and when Tampa Bay's offense was on the field, they shut down the run, and they kept Mayfield in the pocket for the most part. So I just think they were as clean as they have been at any time this season in all phases. And I mean, when you do that and on the road, it doesn't matter who you do it against, you're able to put yourself in position to win the game, because especially when you force 4 turnovers and you come up with the football in some of those situations where it appeared Tampa was right on the verge of scoring or getting in the scoring position, and you're able to win that way. So I just thought it was pretty clean by the Saints. I thought it was a nice job all the way around, and considering the circumstances, I thought they came up pretty big in the situation where they needed to come up big on the road.
I think the area where they came up the biggest was just the way they started this game, because they scored on the opening drive. The Saints did, for the first time, a touchdown this season. 14 plays. They drove right down the field. Juwan Johnson gets into the end zone for the touchdown. What did you like about the way that they were able to just capitalize on that, getting the ball first and then getting in the end zone?
No, I think it was a great sign, because you haven't seen that enough fast starts. And getting out to a fast start, now you allow your pass rushers to rush the passer. You can be more aggressive defensively. So coming out of the gate on the road in your biggest game of the year and to go right down the field and score a touchdown, now what you did was you put all the pressure on Baker Mayfield. You put all the pressure on Tampa Bay at home, and they couldn't overcome that hump until later in the game when they got some garbage yards. But I just thought that fast start really led to the way that game played out.
Sure. How were they affecting Baker Mayfield defensively? Because, you put pressure on him by scoring first, but then also defensively, he hasn't thrown interceptions. He had 1 over the past 4 games, and then he has 2 today. And then also the fumbles and the turnovers and things like that. I mean, it seemed like they were getting a lot of good coverage in the backfield and then applying pressure up front.
No, definitely. Pass defense goes hand in hand. You need really good pass rush so that your DBs don't have to cover very long. And defensively in the secondary, you need to be close to your coverage to get that quarterback to hold on the ball. Now your defensive lineman can get sacks. But really, that was the key of the game, but I also thought stopping the run game. Tampa has not been a very good run team at all. Even going back to Tom Brady, they just never ran the ball well, and this offense is built around their receivers. But the Saints defensively, to play all that coverage and still be able to stop the running game, that was the difference in the game. Tampa never got into third and manageable. It was third and long all day long, and that's why you saw the success on third down.
So, yeah, they were 2 of 8 from third down. And then you mentioned the run game, only 57 yards on the ground. Going into this game, they were near the last of the league with just 89 on average, but the past 3 games they had gotten over 100. So they had kind of figured something out with their offensive line had kind of some continuity for the first time. They seemed like they were moving the ball well. Not the case in this one. In the first half alone, the Saints held the Bucs to 45 total yards.
Yeah.
And they were just, it seemed like they were dominating in every area.
It really was. It was a dominant performance. And for some reason, Dennis Allen and this defense going to Tampa Bay, even with the guy who won all those championships, this defense, for some reason, when they go down to Tampa Bay, plays some of their best football. And I think a lot of it is, regardless who the quarterback is, I think DA and the defensive staff know what matchups they have against their players, and they do a good job of forcing Tampa Bay to do something they don't want to do. Today it was the defense, and Dennis said, hey, we're not going to let Mike Evans beat us. You're going to sit there and run the ball, and if you can do it against a light box, then we'll adjust. But they could never do it, so Saints just kept on. It was one of the very few games this year that they were able to go into a game and play it the way they wanted to play it, all the way to the end.
To your point, Evans was targeted 4 times, only had 3 receptions. He ended up with 70 yards, but that's well below his average. It was actually the rookie, Trey Palmer, who had the highest yardage at 84, and he could have had a lot more than that as he caught that 62-yard pass at the end and then fumbled it as he was coming down to the ground. That was kind of a huge moment in the game, too, because the Bucs had just scored their first touchdown. They looked like they were going to score again, and they could have really closed the gap and made it more of a game at the end.
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge play in the game. And I know there were probably a lot of Saints fans nervous because you played your best football game. Everybody has these flashbacks to Lambeau Field and thinking, okay, we're not out of the woods yet. But I think despite those plays, you needed a little bit of help. Yes, Trey Palmer fumbled the ball. It wasn't contacted before the ball hit the ground. But I still think there was just something different about the way the Saints team approached this second half. It was the one thing about losing in the NFL is it's always going to happen, but can you learn from it? And I felt like this team learned from it. Yes, Tampa Bay got a bunch of garbage yards in the end. They scored a couple touchdowns late. But really at that point, the clock is your enemy. You're just making sure that clock can run out. Offensively, the offense did a great job of running the ball when it mattered most. So they helped the defense. Unlike in Green Bay, where the defense couldn't get off the field, the offense helped them out. They ran the ball, chewed that clock, and got out of there with a win.
It was really funny because you mentioned at a good moment, Adam Prentice had his longest rushing yards in a carry in his career. It was 7 yards.
Yep.
But it was at a great time, and they needed it. It was the third down. They needed the yardage and stuff. So they get over 100 yards on the ground, which is great for them because they've been kind of struggling. They only had 35 last week against the Rams. But it was by committee today. I think there were a lot of players that did a lot to benefit the Saints at the times that they needed it. And so Chris Olave, pretty quiet in this one. Rashid Shaheed, pretty quiet. Whether they were covered and the Saints worked with the tight ends more. Or, I mean, how did you see that, the coverage and kind of how they distributed the ball?
Yeah, I think when you looked at going into this game, I thought Chris would have a big day, but on the other side, I thought Evans would have his day as well, just because they're the 2 premier receivers. But I think it's a credit to Pete Carmichael and the offensive staff. They took what Tampa Bay gave them. And going into the game plan probably changed. Chris wasn't as open because they were probably bracketing him and keeping a guy low and a guy high on him. So they said, you know what, if they're going to do that, let's throw it to Juwan. Let's run the football. Let's take whatever they're giving us. And that, along with Prentice on that run, nobody would have guessed they were going to hand the ball off on 3rd and 7. Certainly Devin White didn't think that. He was the middle linebacker for Tampa. He wasn't even looking at the run game. And so it was a great play call. It was well executed. And that's something we haven't seen consistently out of this team. But today they put it all together in every phase, coaching and playing. Yeah,
Juwan Johnson had his highest number of receptions and receiving yards in the first half. So they definitely saw an advantage there, maybe a mismatch with coverage and everything, and took advantage of it in the first half of play. How did you see offensively? You mentioned Pete Carmichael calling the game, but it looked like there was more play action in this one, and it has been the trend as the season's gone on.
Yeah, for a good portion of the season, the Saints, when you look at Next Gen Stats or wherever stats you look at, the Saints were always at the bottom of the league when it came to play action. And a big part of everybody just says, why don't you play action more? If you're not running the football, play action does nothing. So if you can just get 3.5.
And they were getting behind early,
exactly.
so then you have to kind of abandon
so teams aren't going to respect that,
Yeah.
that play fake by the quarterback. But when you're playing from the front and you're running the ball just enough, it wasn't, the Saints didn't rush for 300 yards today or anything, but it was consistent enough where it was 3.5 or 4 yards a carry, where you were getting in a 3rd and 6, or you were in 2nd and 6. And now those are the hardest downs to play linebacker, because now you have to respect the run and respect the pass. And all day long, the Saints were in that perfect manageable position when it came to down and distance.
Yeah. It's really funny. I'm thinking about you out there, like whether you're deciding if you're going to rush, fall back.
Down and distance goes a long ways. If you're not anticipating plays, and you always look at guys' height, weight, and speed and think, well, if a linebacker runs a 4.4, he's going to make plays. There are guys who are really fast that can't make plays because they don't anticipate those things. Down and distance, studying. Teams that have an incomplete pass on first down, they're more than likely they're going to run the ball on second down because they want to get into 3rd and 5. So all those things lead to being able to anticipate well at the linebacker position.
Sure. You mentioned head coach Dennis Allen, the defense playing well in Tampa. He hadn't gotten a win over Tampa Bay as a head coach yet. So this is his first win, although he did have that 9-0 victory at Tampa when he had to step in for Sean Payton, who I think he was out with COVID a couple years back. So he has won there, but he was just kind of the acting head coach in that moment. Why do you think they play so well there?
I don't know. There's something about that building that, first of all, when Tom Brady went there, that automatically ratchets up your attention. Like, when you're going on the road, when Tom Brady is the quarterback, that you better play well or you're going to get embarrassed. And I feel like when you go to a place and you have success and you play there well, as soon as you step off the bus and you walk into that locker room, those same feelings come back. It doesn't matter that Baker Mayfield's a quarterback now or that Tom Brady was a quarterback. It's your previous success does a lot of times carry over, because that confidence you have as a player when you step off the team bus and you walk in that same locker room, you're like, last time we were here, we dominated these guys. And I think that's a lot of what's going on with the Saints defense is whenever they're in Tampa, they play well.
Okay, so you said it ratcheted up your attention. With the way the NFC South is, what was on the line in this game today, you think the team came out with a heightened level of attention, focus? It seemed like they approached this game differently on the field.
Certainly, and I think it's a great sign because, all year long it's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster. Haven't seen that consistency, but now you put this game in front of this team and said, it's do or die time. This is the biggest game of the year. If you want a chance to get into the tournament, if you want a chance to win the NFC South, yes, you need help. But let's control what we can control. And this team came out and played their best game of the year, or certainly their most complete game of the year. And there's just been a lot of signs over the last few weeks. And you go back to the Detroit game when they got down 21-0, and there's no moral victories in the NFL, but this team never quit. And those little things add up to moments like this where you still give yourself a chance to play for games that matter.
We've seen this team fight back in games and close gaps when they've gotten down, but it was really good to see them get out to a big lead, 17-0 at the half, and not allow the team to dictate the way you were playing and what you're doing in this game. Let's go ahead and send things to Tampa and hear from head coach Dennis Allen.
All right. Happy New Year to everybody. Look, good team win for our football team. Still feel like there were some things that we could have done better. Still felt like there was a few things that we left out there on the field. But I thought particularly in the first half, I thought we played really well in the first half in all three phases. I thought the field position in the game was a big part of the game. I think the takeaways in the game were a big part of the game. I think we ran the ball a little bit better offensively, which opened up some things in the passing game. We did a good job on third down, converting on third downs. So, look, there's a lot of good things that we did. Obviously, the first drive of the game, taking it down there, being able to score points, put 7 on the board, I thought was big for our football team. So, proud of the way that our guys continue to compete. I'm proud of the way our guys continue to fight, and I'm proud of the way that they played today. So, now we got to digest this, and then get ready for Atlanta.
Was this a hard effort, performance, all that stuff you just talked about to pull off after the state of the team just like 9 days ago, maybe the toughest loss?
Well, I think state of the team probably is, that's man, I'm sure everybody has their own opinion about the state of the team, right? But I've never questioned the mindset of our team. I've never questioned the toughness of our team. I've never questioned the competes of our team. Look, this game we play is hard. It's not easy, and there's some times that you got to fight back after a tough loss. But I told the team last night, we got to handle hard well. And I thought our guys did that today.
A lot of the players said this week they felt like it was playoff mentality this week. How does it feel that they appear to respond to that message?
Yeah, look, I think, look, it's positive, and I think, when we face some adversity, I think our guys have generally responded. So, we knew our backs were against the wall, and we knew that if we didn't take care of business today, then it didn't matter what happened, anywhere else. We knew that we had to win this game, and I think our guys had the mindset that we were coming in here to win, and that's what they did.
How did you feel Jonathan Abram performed?
Listen, I thought he played really well. I was extremely proud of him, happy for him, the way that he played. Great effort play, on the strip, to cause the fumble that DeMario recovered. Look, and there was a number of things he did well. Obviously, that play stands out. But, here's a guy that's been, kind of on the practice squad, then he's on the roster. Probably hadn't gotten as many opportunities as he would like, but he's one of the ones that's, he's got probably the most time on the iPad in terms of studying what the opponents are doing. He works extremely hard at it, and he got his opportunity, and he performed well.
What went into that decision to give him that?
Well, I think, look, primarily it was because we had a rookie player that, missed the early part of the week practice. And so I think you got to, particularly for a young player, I think you got to, practice to be able to play and play well. And so, and look, it doesn't really matter how he gets the opportunity. It's about taking advantage of the opportunity. I thought he did a good job of that. Juwan Johnson, I thought he played really well today. Here's another guy that, look, we've had a number of guys that have kind of gotten challenged a little bit, and they've responded to the challenge. Juwan Johnson being one of them. I think the last couple of weeks, Juwan's really responded to it and performed well. Obviously, the touchdown was a big play in the game. The third down catch down the middle of the field was a huge play in the game, changed his field position. He catches the boot there in the, I guess it was the fourth quarter there, gets us in some good field position. So, look, I thought he played well. I thought he played through, a little bit of a shoulder injury and came back out and played and competed. So I was really proud of him.
The first half of the game, you feel that's the best maybe collectively you played this year on both sides?
Yeah, look, it's been a long season, so, I think there's been some times, where I feel like our team has played really well in a lot of spurts. But, yeah, I do. I feel like, that was, all three phases, I think, contributed to, us being able to get out to that lead in the first half.
Derek feels like Derek Carr feels like he's been hitting a stride over the course of the past few games. Has there been anything sort of different about his approach?
Well, look, no, I think – I think he's feeling a little bit better. Obviously he's had a couple of, things that have kind of nagged him throughout the season. And I think he's probably, look, nobody's 100% healthy this time of year, but I think he's closer to that now than maybe where he was, a month and a half ago. So yeah, I think he's been performing, much better over the last, call it month or 6 weeks of the season. And I think a lot of that is health related.
And is this still a bit of what y'all were expecting to see sort of when everything kind of settled in, maybe a little more chemistry?
Yeah. Look, it's still not perfect, but it's been improved. And I think, look, we're guaranteed one more opportunity to go improve it a little bit more, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Add Alontae Taylor to that.
Alontae was awesome today, really. Like, again, that's the enjoyment that I get out of coaching is when a guy hits a rough patch and you challenge him, look, he got benched. That's hard. It's hard to take. He responded the right way. You guys asked me, how's he going to respond? I thought he responded the right way. I think he did that today. So I was extremely proud of him.
The Titans seemed like they were pretty heavily involved in the passing game early. Was there something that you saw going into the game, like a matchup that y'all liked? With that?
Well, look, obviously the fact that we used the tight end says that, we felt like there was something that maybe we could, hopefully, take advantage of. And again, look, you never know exactly how the game's going to play out. We kind of have an idea what they may try to do, and yet, we don't have a contract with them. And they can kind of do whatever they want to do, and we have to be able to react to it. And so, in this game, there were some things that I think they were trying to do to, obviously take away some of our receivers, and so the tight ends played a little bit bigger role, specifically Juwan.
How much of what Juwan was able to do the last few weeks kind of gave you confidence in installing progress?
Well, yeah, look, confidence, you guys have heard this because I got it from one of my mentors, but confidence is born from demonstrated ability. And that's the same thing for us as coaches. When we see you do it, we have more confidence that you can do it again. When you as a player see yourself do it, you have more confidence that you can do it again. So I think all those things work together. But yeah, he certainly we have confidence in him and throwing him the football.
Dennis said, did Allen come up test something after halftime? Or
Yeah, so he sprained his ankle.
first half?
I think it was on the sideline over there right before, in the first half, right before the end of the half, when he got tackled on their sideline over there. Kind of came in, got it looked at, came out after half to try to test it out, and look, just didn't feel like he was going to be able to be functional, enough to help us win.
Do you know that it was not a high ankle sprain then, since he was?
I don't know that. I know it's an ankle sprain. I haven't really gotten into all the details as to what it is.
And then a couple of the guys that got ruled out. Knee
Now,
injuries, do you know
look, Nephi's got a pretty significant, knee injury that, look, he's going to miss significant time with. Landon, I think, the same knee that he hurt, earlier in training camp, so very similar situation with him. I'd have to get all my injury report but I know those are a couple that, are fairly significant.
Came Irving come back in.
Cramps.
Sorry.
Cramps. Yeah.
But him stepping in place of Landon
Yeah.
Young, would you like to just offer him?
Yeah, look, obviously, when you're watching the offense, and it's much more difficult to see everything that's happening inside. Usually, if I don't hear his name being said, then I'm assuming that he's doing some pretty decent things, So I didn't hear his name called out a lot. Nothing really stood out to me like that was not good. So I'm assuming that he at least stepped in and did a decent job.
What was the key to slowing down the Buccaneers' offense? They've been hot over the past 3 weeks. Scored 30-plus points last week against the Jaguars. As far as 2 INTs on them, they've struggled all game long.
Well, the biggest thing for this game was we had to win the line of scrimmage. We had to win the line of scrimmage on offense. We had to win the line of scrimmage on defense. Our O-line and our D-line had to play well for us to have a chance to win this game. And like I said earlier, it wasn't perfect, but I thought overall we were able to, make enough plays up front on both sides of the ball and do enough to win the line of scrimmage to give ourselves a chance to win.
What went wrong in the final couple minutes? Obviously, a couple big plays.
Yeah, we can't let the ball get over our head. So, we didn't play as well as we needed to in those 2 instances, and that's why when you look at the game, you say, well, it wasn't perfect, So we got to go back. We got to make those corrections. We got to fix that because that's inexcusable. Let the ball go over your head. And look, when you get in those situations, you've been playing well for such a long time, doing it one way. Don't change how you're playing. So there's that fine line of, well, am I going to just play soft and easy and let them throw the ball underneath, or am I going to play the way I've been playing for the last 58 minutes, And so we'll look at it and our guys will learn from it. All right, guys, thanks.
We have Derek Carr.
performed you guys on.
Yeah, we just we need to start fast against this team. They're leading the division. Excellent on defense. Coach challenged us this week. He challenged us individually. He challenged us as a team, certain units, and so getting that score early, I think just lit everybody up. Juwan made a great tough catch, tight window, had to take a hit for us. He did, and I think that ignited everybody. I really do. The belief, that it's one thing to keep being positive, but when it comes to fruition, I think the belief gets higher.
Derek, you and Juwan seem to really click in training camp. I felt like, trying to remember back then, but it felt like you went to him a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously that kind of showed similar results today. Why do you feel like it took so long to kind of show up again? That connection between the two?
Yeah, I thought we began to do things nice and see certain things, and then he gets hurt, and then that door is rough. And then that's exactly what I thought. But then you saw Taysom step up, and fill that role and how many catches he's had, can't remember the Houston game and just so on and so forth, but, making big plays for me and for us, and especially down the red zone again today. But, I think you've seen that position and that role get filled by, Taysom and other guys, and then Juwan comes back healthy, and, his role is his role, and, when the plays are dialed to him, he's able to make those plays. None bigger than the one down the middle to get us out of backed up, and to catch that, make a front flip, one of the best safeties in the league, hitting him, that was unbelievable.
With an injured shoulder, too.
With an injured shoulder, yes, yeah.
How much are you able to kind of rely on that chemistry that you had in training camp, even though it's later in the season? Does that pay off this time of year?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's another guy that, when the defense is doing their thing and I'm doing my extra work, he's down there catching balls for me. He's down there working with me, giving me extra reps. We threw that route, I think 3 or 4 times extra on that left side in practice. Just we felt like we didn't really like it. We need to work on it. Man, he catches a touchdown today. So we're always working at that chemistry. It's never perfect. This is NFL football. It's never going to be perfect, but we definitely rely on it. All those reps we've had together for sure.
Derek, Dennis mentioned that he thinks your health has been a factor in you finding your rhythm and group play in recent weeks. I know you haven't wanted to use that as an excuse, but has that been something that has definitely made a big difference in December for you?
I'll let DA say that. You know me, man. I can't make an excuse or because I've been playing well, like, oh yeah, my shoulder, I feel better. I do feel better. That's just, I can always be honest with you. I do feel better. But I'll let DA and other guys talk on that. Well, he did a great job of using, help to get a pick. And Taysom's so fast, man. He got the guy in a trail position, and I was able to not, overthrow him, just give him a ball that he could react to. And he made an outstanding play, and I'm thankful he landed in the end zone.
Adam's a guy who doesn't get a ton of opportunities. Obviously, one of them was a fumble. Was it nice to be able to get him that carry like the game for that first time?
I'm sorry, you said Adam?
Adam.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. When I went to hand that ball, that's usually AK, back there. And when I went and I say, Adam. And he took off, and it was a huge run for us to take some time off the clock. But I know for his confidence, too. He was probably thinking of the last time, he played these guys. And, I even told Joel on the sideline, I said that was huge for him to be in there for that play. And have that opportunity to show, because I'm sure he was thinking of the last game, just like I was thinking of the last game. I think I was fresh off the Green Bay game, and I was very frustrated with certain things and things I could and couldn't do. So, it's always good in a division game to get back at somebody and get a win, because they got after us the first time.
Losing Landon and Alvin, just talk about the job that Jamal Williams did in that second half and maybe Cameron too.
Those are two guys, again, you can't just replace guys. Landon and AK are great teammates, great players, great people, for our locker room and for our team. And, I thought Cam stepped up huge for us coming in that role. He's done that before for us in this season and played well. And I thought he did a great job. I thought, Jamal stepping up, that's no shock to me. Jamal's, one of the best running backs, power running backs that you're going to find, and, he's one of the most enthusiastic. He's a different cat, but he's one of my favorite teammates I've ever had because of his love for not only the game, but his love for his teammates. He tells us all the time, he's like, I'm going to run through someone's face for y'all. This ain't for me, And, when you have a guy like that, you can always go to battle with him. And Taysom could probably talk about him even more, with the years they spent together. But, the short time I've been with him, he brightens my day every time I see him. And so to see him get a lot of carries and make some tough yards for us today against a really good run defense, I thought he did a good job.
How good was it to see Jonathan being such a good back there?
Yeah, I was so happy. We obviously were together, with the Raiders, and I've seen his development, I've seen his growth, and I'm more proud of who he's become off the field and the type of man he's become, type of father he wants to be. Those as much as growth as he's made on the field, off the field, he's done even better. And I'm so proud of that because he's worked hard at it. And so I thank God for him because he's a great teammate. Even though on the scout team sometimes he's a saboteur, and it is what it is because that's John. But when he got his chance, he made a lot of great plays.
Derek, how do you feel about where the team's mindset is at after you guys responded to the playoff mentality challenge to still be alive in Week 18?
Yeah, we're still alive, playing for something. Job's not done. One of my favorite athlete of all time. It's one of his most famous quotes. Job's not finished, and so until we run out of time, I'm gonna keep believing, but I'm gonna keep working. We can't feel satisfied because we got to win. We came in with the expectation to win. We had to win. We did. It feels good, but we got to play another team that we didn't beat this year, and so I'm looking forward to that matchup. And we'll start on them as soon as we can.
Anything else there?
Just real quick, it seemed like they were able to, or they sent a lot of pressure, but you guys were able to pick that up pretty well. Just what you see in terms of the coordination that you guys handled.
That was the saw capital of the world today. They were bringing every form of corner, nickel, safeties and, base linebacker, Sam Will. Inside pressure, outside pressure, picks, stunts. And our guys didn't give up a sack. I know it says one on that sheet. That was my fault. I thought I threw it away. So I want to credit our offensive line with an amazing job that they did. Our two offensive line coaches with the plan that they gave us because, when they give us a plan and we go out there and execute it, it's awesome when you come away with those results because that's really tough to do against this team. They have a lot of disguises. They hide their pressures better than anybody else. They do a fantastic job, and they've played a lot of football together, you can tell. So to come out of that with one sack, which was my fault, but none by the O-line, it's an amazing feat that they had, and they deserve a lot of credit. Good.
Derek.
Thank you.
Jason Hill. Feel like there's some. Hey, Derek, try not to let the door squeak. Try not to let the door squeak on the way.
Hey, that's what you got to do.
All right, Sean, you want to lead off?
Yeah, Derek described it very well. We came out, we knew it was man, and that's kind of what you're hoping for when you're in my position. And we had a nice natural pick, and Derek gave me a good ball, so that was it. I don't know. I guess typically at the tight end role, you're catching balls over the middle, and some of those balls typically end up being high percentage throws. So I look at some of the receptions that we had in that room today, and I felt like a lot of them moved the chains. So that was fun to see, and I think it was also one of those things that it's like you don't know who it's going to be, when you are playing the Saints offensively. Is it going to be outside, Sheed, Chris, Lynn, AT, or are we going to have the guys inside in the tight end room and running backs? And so we got a lot of weapons and a lot of opportunities for the tight ends today. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if you're a defense, you see all the ways that we can utilize the different weapons, and so that just makes us, more versatile as an offense.
Team's most complete game of the season. I mean, it seems like the offense is starting to hit stride.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Offensive, defensive, special teams. I felt like, man, it was a really clean game. Defense forced. Trying to think now. We have 2 to 3 turnovers. 2. 4. Sorry. You got a defense that creates 4 turnovers and we don't turn it over. I mean, special teams played a clean game, and man, it was great from every aspect. What do I make of it? Look, I think it's one of those things that, like, I'm not surprised. Man, I've seen Juwan do a lot of incredible things and make great plays, and going back to camp, and he got injured early in the year, and those are always tough. And so, man, I've been really happy for him to come back and feeling good and healthy and get opportunities and make these plays. It's been really fun to see. Okay, thanks, guys.
Jonathan.
Giving us 3 quarterbacks.
That was head coach Dennis Allen, quarterback Derek Carr, and quarterback Taysom Hill. I think I liked what Derek Carr said the best. The job's not finished. Mm-hmm. They still have another game that they have to go out and play and win to continue to keep these playoff hopes alive. You got the win today, and it looked like the team played some of their best ball. They were able to use what the Bucs gave them, take advantage of the situations, obviously with the turnovers and such. But now you have to go and beat Atlanta at home here in New Orleans. What does the focus have to be going into that one?
Well, I think carrying over the success from this game and continue to do the things that you did well today next week. I think if the defense can take the ball away from Atlanta's struggling. They don't know who their quarterback is right now. They've had injuries. Heineke went down again today with the Bears. You liked a lot of the matchups, but it's about taking care of the football offensively, taking the football away defensively. And I think the encouraging thing was not only for this year, but looking forward to future years is, and you're not at that point yet, you still have a lot to play for this year, but you look at the guys who showed up today. Juwan Johnson, young player, ascending player. Alontae Taylor, young, ascending player, played some of his best football after being benched. That says a lot about a young player.
Yeah.
Being coachable, taking ownership of your performance, and then bouncing back and playing some great football. And then Pete Werner leading the defense in tackles today. I think those guys stepping up and playing some of their best football when the games matter most is a great sign.
It was a great team win all around. They definitely came out and did what they had to do, getting the win today in Tampa Bay. And yeah, not letting Tampa Bay clinch the NFC South, still have that potential title, at play next week, which is crazy. But they, controlled what they could control, and that was the goal in this one. And they get to come back to New Orleans, celebrate New Year's Eve and the New Year with a victory. It was definitely a fun one as the Saints take the 10-point victory, 23-13 over Tampa Bay. For Scott Shanle, John DeShazier, who is still in Tampa, heading back here shortly. I'm Erin Summers. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a safe, fun, and happy New Year's Eve.